convicts here than in Danbury Federal Prison. You insurrectionist. Okay, listen. In the Imperial Capitol a few moments ago, we had the first defeat that we've had in a long time, right? You know why? The political class is infected with a malignant cancer. That cancer is bipartisanship, right? You guys remember we met last year. It was before President Trump. It was before the primary, before the general election, before any of these victories came. And all the pundits saying Donald Trump can't win. He can't win the primary. Donald Trump doesn't compromise. All of his followers are a bunch of racist and fascist ne'er-do-wells. What happened in the primary? Trump ran the table, correct? Was there any bipartisanship in Scott Presler going around for the last 4 years and changing the makeup of the electorate in Pennsylvania or in Arizona? Was there any? No. Was there any of you guys going door to door as canvassing and get out the vote for President Trump? Was that bipartisan? It was not. It was highly partisan. Was there anything about the election integrity of folks going in and doing the hard work and sitting around the table and making sure they couldn't steal the 2024 election like they stole the 2020 election? Was there any compromise at all in anything that you all did? No, there was not. It was zero. Let's go back in time. When they stole the 2020 election, President Trump left the Imperial Capitol, came to Mar-a-Lago. And they said, every pundit said, you'll never see Trump in politics again. Trump is finished. Trump is a spent force. The MAGA movement was just a blip, right? He was there for 4 years. It was a surprise victory over Hillary Clinton. And what happened? Right, his polling was down. The only people that went down and saw him from the political class were people to make sure the lion was still in the cage. He had no support except from you. You guys refused to back off. Think about the journey you have been on with President Trump since the election was stolen. Everybody consistently told you that all the pundits on Fox and MSNBC and CNN consistently, Trump can't win, Trump's a loser, Trump's people are bad people, the country won't support him, right? Think of the moral courage President Trump had to come back. It is the most Kennedy wrote a book, Profiles in Courage. That is nothing. You read all the examples. They pale in comparison to Trump. President Trump, when he's back in Mar-a-Lago, when he made the conscious decision not to sit there and just enjoy his grandchildren, enjoy the golf courses, enjoy the empire he built, his wife and the great family, he made a conscious decision that this story is not over. That what they had done is stolen an election, and what they were prepared to do to the country was pure evil. He knew what was ahead of him. He knew they were going to try to bankrupt him. He knew that they were going to try to destroy his family. He knew that they were going to come after him with lawfare and try to put him in prison. All of that he understood when he made the decision that he would return. He would return and defeat them, win the primary against the Republican Party, and then defeat Joe Biden or whoever the puppets were, the puppet masters in back of Joe Biden. That single act of doing it was the single greatest act of political courage in the history of the country. Now, why did he do it? Because he knew he had you as his back. You had his back. You're the foundational element of this movement. You are the vanguard of a revolutionary movement. Every revolution has had folks like you. The American Revolution had it. That's who you are. You just delivered the greatest comeback, not just in the history of the country, but the greatest comeback in all political history. Do you understand your power? Do you understand it? I don't think so. You know what understands it? Wall Street understands it. The titans of Silicon Valley understand it. The political class in Washington, D.C. understand it, because every day they plot to defeat President Trump and therefore to defeat you. Look at what happened in the last 72 hours. President Trump wins. He's on a roll. He's treated like the president of the United States. You know why they treat him like that since the victory? Because they understand that Joe Biden is illegitimate imposter. That never in American history, never in American history has any president-elect been treated like Donald Trump on the international stage and by the American people, because the American people understand that Biden is an imposter. They understand now that he stole the 2020 election. President Trump goes to Notre Dame and he's treated like Charlemagne. He looks like Charlemagne when he walks in, like a king, like a leader. You see those little munchkins? You see the little munchkins, Macron and the wife, and Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden. By the way, I wish any of my 3 ex-wives gave me the look that Jill Biden gave Trump. Come on, man. Come on, right? What's the over and under she voted for him? You know it happened. Look how they received him. Look how they're receiving him everywhere. Look at Army, Navy. The midshipmen and the Corps of Cadets is not supposed to act like that. Look at it. I've never seen intensity of love of a commander-in-chief. You know why? They consider him the commander-in-chief, not Biden. And why is that? Because of you. They understand, and as our message gets out, remember last year, people were doubting, had no earthly idea if he could do this. You didn't. And look at the message that you brought out, going door to door. President Trump at the rallies, right? Look at the coalition we've put together. African American men, right? Hispanic families. Young men have voted overwhelmingly for President Trump. Part of that is the moral courage. But then at Butler, you merge moral courage with physical courage. You have a unique leader in this country's history you haven't had. President Trump, I just said, President Trump's not particularly churchy, right? But I was there in 2016 when we were down by 12 points with 100 days. President Trump, divine providence works through Donald Trump as its instrument. Do you understand the odds against Trump winning in 2024 of what they did? You understand the long odds of this? It's like 1 billion to 1. Go back and look at all the pundits. They dismissed it. They laughed at it. And then we have a victory. You got Notre Dame. You got President Trump going to the New York Stock Exchange. Look at the photo on Time magazine, the power shot of him up there, right? He rings the bell. The animal spirits have been unleashed. Corporate America and the entrepreneurs say, yes, we finally got a guy back here who they fought every step of the way. Now they're all down there like little supplicants. Here's my $1 million check, right? In Mar-a-Lago. And then we get to Washington, D.C., the imperial capital. And it's not about any one person. Clearly, Johnson's not up to the task, and he's got to go, right? He's got to go. Should Johnson be Speaker of the House? President Trump, these are your people. It's not just Johnson. Clearly, he has to go. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have what we call the right stuff. Right, that combination of guts and moxie and savvy and toughness. What is the strength of our movement? It's resilience. What does Trump admire most? It's resilience. You can punch MAGA in the face and they're going to get up off the canvas and they're going to punch you back 3 times harder. This is what we've done. Johnson goes to the UFC fights, right? He's on the plane. He's walking in the UFC fight, right? And when President Trump shows up the UFC fights, it's like the Roman Coliseum. I mean, this thing explodes, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. He's there. He's at the Army-Navy game, hanging in the box. He's always around. He's down Mar-a-Lago. Did he ever mention to President Trump Did he ever mention to Vivek? Did he ever mention to Elon? It's 1,500 pages of sellout to Hakeem Jeffries. He just stands up in the Capitol a few minutes ago and goes, well, you know, we negotiated this on bipartisan. There's nothing to negotiate. We don't need partisanship now. We need hyper-partisanship now. The conversation is over. President Trump came back from the political dead and on the shoulders of the most powerful populist movement in the history of the world, brought in every demographic, every ethnicity, every gender in every part of the country, and won a landslide victory. All the battleground states, every demographic, and the popular vote. We have nothing else to discuss. It's only about the execution of President Trump's plan. On his nominees, right? You've got. Well, first off, we should have never backed off of Matt Gaetz, right? Matt Gaetz is a hammer. Matt Gaetz is going to go in the Justice Department and clean that rat's nest out. And then Matt Gaetz is going to turn the guns, metaphorically, right, on the J6 committee, right, on Capitol Hill, and particularly on the Biden regime, the Biden administration. You guys are right about everything. You're mocked and ridiculed all the time. Remember, they're not an illegitimate regime. No, they won. The New York Times and Wall Street Journal in the last 48 hours have published 2 stories that say Biden never really ran the government, right? He had all these other people that don't even know who made these decisions. It's a complete puppet. Everything we've been saying from the beginning, and if he was an actual commander-in-chief, and you saw this when he went to Saudi Arabia, did he have the troops out when President Trump shows up? They got the red carpet. They got soldiers on both sides. They're all snapped too, right? Biden gets out of an SUV and is fist bumping some guy. They never treated him like a president of the United States because their intelligence services told them he's not a legitimate president of the United States. And now the mainstream media, 4 years after the fact, gets out that the Daily Mail aggregate the stories, and there's going to be some huge investigation. We have to go back to the beginning. We have to go back to 2020, right? It has to be out in the open. Remember, the more transparency, the more powerful we are. The first thing President Trump ought to do is declassify 5 million documents of classified information and let people see it. You'll sit there and go, what, this is classified? They classified the information for one reason, to keep it from you, right? Your common sense is the common sense we need in our international affairs and our national security. If you gave me the choice, I was fortunate enough to go to Harvard. I was fortunate enough to go to Goldman Sachs. And I will tell you right here, if you gave me the choice between being governed by the top 100 partners at Goldman Sachs or the top 100 partners at McKinsey or Booz Allen or Cravath or Sullivan and Cromwell, and the first 100 people that walked in here with a red ball cap, give me those 100. Because you've got more common sense, you have more empathy. You are the sovereign will of the American people, handed down generation to generation through every patriot's grave down to the current time. This is what you represent. You had no money. This was all done. Pressler had no money. These organizations, the types of money, no money. You did this by grit. You did this by tenacity. You did this by resilience. It's exactly what they don't have. They stole the 20. First of all, the whole first term in 16, every day, Trump's a racist, Trump's a fascist. These are terrible people. Then they steal the 2020 election. Did you give up? Did you go back and cry? Did you turn in the fetal position and suck your thumb? Hell no, you didn't. You know who's doing it. All we hear in the mainstream media is how they have to have quiet time, and they got psychologists over at the State Department patting them on the head. They're too tired. There's no resistance because they can't take it anymore. Fuck you. We're going to go win. That's my inner convict that just came out. No, I'll be blunt. I find their weakness appalling. Right? I find what they tried to do, to use state power, to use the media, to use it all against Trump and all the money from Wall Street, to not just break Trump, but to break you. You couldn't have worn a red MAGA hat before out in public. You couldn't let people at work know how you voted. They tried they were like neo-Marxists in Russia or Nazi Germany or neo-Marxists. Think about what they tried to do to your life. But underground, there were so many people who said, hey, I like Trump. And then when they started hearing the policies from you and every day, and the new ecosystem of far-right media, we don't need Fox, we don't need MSNBC or CNN, the New York Times. You don't need them. Look at where you guys have more. You are so far ahead of their knowledge. I can talk to you about any topic that is important, signal not noise, and you guys have the information. Do you realize how few times that's happened in the United States of America, where they control the information? The hardest thing we have to do, Charlie will tell you, is to stay ahead of you guys. You take information like a sponge, then you take the actionable information, the actual information, you use your agency and you put it to work. There's never been a movement like that ever. It's the reason they fear you. It's the reason what Johnson did over the last 48 hours is a political mortal sin. You don't go to Hakeem Jeffries. Quite frankly, I don't give a damn what Hakeem Jeffries wants. I don't care what Chuck Schumer wants. These people are not relevant. What is relevant is the people that President Trump has in office, and what's relevant is the people that he wants in his cabinet. I don't care what they have to say about Pete Hegseth. I don't care what they have to say about Bobby Kennedy. I don't care what they have to say about Kash Patel. I do not care what they have to say about Tulsi Gabbard. President Trump took a bullet to the head, and 4 months later, won in a landslide. He gets the team he wants. And what does the political class do? The political class gives 1,500 pages. And here's the thing that galls me the most. All the giveaways, biolabs in Ukraine, all this different crap, right? More stuff, you can't investigate them. But the worst thing, and to show you what kind of people they are, they gave themselves a pay raise. They gave themselves a pay raise and hid it on page 900. Yo, dude, if you think you deserve the COLA you haven't been paid in 10 years, we're reasonable people. We're reasonable people. Just put it on the front cover, and we tell you, go screw yourself, okay? If the 173 is not good enough, I got a lot of folks here that'll go hit the bed and serve their country for $173,000 plus expenses, right? If it's not good enough, give it up. And then you got the seething anger. You know, the young guy that assassinated a guy, shot him in the, laid in wait, shot him in the back at point blank range. Not exactly in American tradition, right? It was like Robert Ford shot Wild Bill Hickok. The worst thing that happened in the American West, or one of the worst things that ever happened. He does it. That seething anger underneath it. So what do these guys do? I don't know. They opt out of Obamacare, some of the insurance program, in the dark of night. Because this is how the political class thinks. They don't think like you. They don't think like Trump. They think in a totally different, it's all politics. It's all this irrelevant nomenclature. They never get down to the thing itself. Think about it. President Trump, there's 3 big lines of work right now. One is to stop the forever wars, right? In Ukraine, go back to our show. I said on the evening on Ukraine, this thing's absurd, and they're never going to give up those Eastern-speaking territories or Crimea. We're 3 years later. Folks, there's 1 million dead and wounded Ukrainians. When I say wounded, I mean the no legs, no arms. 1 million. The Russians have 700,000, 1.7 million. And Eastern Ukraine's been destroyed. We've put $250 billion, $250 billion. And Biden every day is trying to send more arms, more weapons, strip our own military of everything to get it in there, right? And making it harder for President Trump to be able to negotiate. But I will tell you, when they gave Hunter Biden the pardon, and they went back to 1 January 2014, that's a signal, right? They know what they did in Ukraine. They know what they had to hide in Ukraine. When we get into Ukraine and investigate and we rip the scab off of Ukraine, there's going to be some pus come out of there that's going to revolt the American people. I'm talking about the biolabs, the child trafficking, where the money went. Zelensky, to me, is a criminal. He ought to be under full investigation. And then when we find out how much he and his buddies have stolen, you know who agrees with us? The people of Ukraine. He's only at 16%. If they held an election today, which he hadn't held, it'd be 16%. So President Trump's got the war in the Middle East. Now you've got against, telling Trump, you didn't know what you're doing. You didn't know what you're doing. The Persians are what, a week, 2 weeks away from having nuclear grade material to make a nuclear weapon? Didn't President Trump warn us about that? Didn't he stop that? So you got that situation. You have with the Chinese in the South China Sea. Everything on this war to stop the kinetic part of it is a huge lift for President Trump, and all they do every day is make it worse, right? Then you look at the southern border. You know Biden's illegitimate. Who would allow into their country to organize it, initiate it, and then exacerbate it? Who would allow 12 to 15 million illegal aliens into this country? And they did it to crush the African American and Hispanic citizens, low-skilled workers. They did it because they wanted those wages to go down to stop inflation. You notice they didn't do this to investment bankers. They didn't do this to lawyers. They didn't do it to the lobbyists in D.C. They did it to the folks in this country, the hardest working folks that could least defend themselves. This is why the message of Donald Trump is resonating. This is why we won in the Rio Grande Valley. This is why we won in South Texas. This is why Trump can get 15,000 people in South Bronx. And if they weren't stealing votes two at a time with handfuls at a time, he would have won New York City. He would have won the boroughs. That's part of the Trump revolution. What we've done is a realignment like 1932. Like FDR. There's nothing to stop us but ourselves. So let's talk about that. The biggest issue is the financial and economic, and particularly the debt. And this is what President Trump, he's got a plan. He's got these reconciliations, but you got to line everything up. You got Treasury, you got OMB, you got the work that Vivek and Elon are going to do at Doge, right? To deconstruct the administrative state and take it down, right? Right? The bond market, the global capital markets have taken out the government of the United Kingdom in the last year. And they're about to take out the Labor government. It's taken out the government in Germany. It's taken out the government in France. It's taken out the government in Canada. I think I got pattern recognition here, right? It took out Biden. The inflation that was caused by the refinancing of his debt is why inflation didn't go away. President Trump has got to line them up. It's got to be a close run thing. You got to be very organized and get on it. And it's going to be incredibly tough. This may be the hardest part at all. And what is Jay Powell's giving us another interest rate cut, but say on President Trump's watch, we're not going to give any, right? Janet Yellen is playing around with the balance sheet of the Treasury every day. They're playing games, whether it's the war, whether it's the debt, whether it's the border and illegal immigrants. They are playing games to make it harder for Trump. They just announced today they got 2,000 troops in Syria. How in the hell did that happen? Because they don't want Trump to be successful. In fact, they said it the other day, but when we relieved the watch in 17, we're sitting down there, we go through everywhere we are. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Special Forces, CIA paramilitary, 150 countries, 150,000 people. What in the hell are we doing? Right? This is what President Trump's fighting against. This American empire that the framers of the Constitution, the founders of our nation, warned us about. Don't go overseas for monsters to slay, right? But it's not that we don't have allies and we're a nation, we're going to have trading deals and be part of the world. We're not isolationist, but what we are not is globalist. And that's what you've got. You've got these radical globalists that have run this. What? They think because of what happened, this speed bump in the last 24 hours, they think they got Trump now. You watch. They think they got MAGA. It's far from it, okay? When they say we don't back down, okay? We don't back down, we double down, right? We don't retreat, we advance. And we don't surrender, we fight. And that is what's needed now more than ever. President Trump needs you to have his back, because as hard as it's been for the last 4 years, as great as you have been, to be the vanguard, the cadre at the tip of the spear. The hardest work's ahead of us. You just saw this in the last 24 hours in D.C. They're going to chop block us every step of the way, because your growth as a movement, your power as a movement, President Trump's becoming victorious and efficient and effective with Elon and all the great team he's bringing together. They understand that 2/3 to 75% of this country is MAGA, and they fear that, and they fear you. So don't back down, double down, right? Do not retreat. We're not going to retreat. You know what we're going to do? We're going to fix bayonets, and we're going to advance, okay? Fix bayonets. This is what saved Pete Hegseth. This is what saved Kash Patel. When they tell you a guy like Pete Hegseth is not qualified, say, screw yourself. He was qualified enough to fight for this country overseas. He's qualified to be in DOD and run it. When they tell you Kash Patel is not qualified, he knows more counterterrorism, more counterintelligence than any guy they got over there, and he understands who needs to be investigated, right? The J6 committee and the Biden White House. When they tell you, they're on TV every night talking about blanket preemptive pardons. They're telling you about the crimes they committed. Now they're on TV talking about blanket amnesties. Here's the amnesty they're going to get. We're going to investigate you. We're going to do it all above board, and you're going to go to prison for a long time. Somebody said President Trump's retribution, his success is going to be the golden age and coming back and great jobs and everything. And that's true, because President Trump's a kind-hearted man. President Trump's a good man, okay? I'm not that kind-hearted, and I'm not that good. I want good old-fashioned Old Testament retribution, okay? I want to go after, with Mike Davis, the vast criminal conspiracy that for the last 4 years tried to bankrupt Donald Trump, tried to imprison Donald Trump, tried to assassinate Donald Trump. That's what we're going to go after. We're going to investigate it, and we're going to put all the guilty in prison where they belong so they can never do it again. We got a huge fight in front of us, but I'd like who's on my side of the football, right? We got to have Trump's back. We got to fight every day. When in the Napoleonic Wars, they had this thing, Napoleon, very focused. And he had these, his top guys were called the Marshals of France, and there were 12 of them. Okay, and he had them in there one time. It's all confusing. And he said, hey, shut up, focus. When you set out to take Vienna, that's what we're going to do. Take the imperial capital. You guys are going to be ascended. We're going to get President Trump's program through. And one last thing, Trump 2028. MSNBC, fuck you.